And one more reason is overconfident. And they mute others. And one more reason for the complications are like
Mama bandare kya?
Mama bandare.
Mama ಇದು ಕೂಡ ನಮ್ಮ ಯಶವಂತಪುರದೇನೋ ಪಾರ್ಸಲ್ ಬಂದಾರಂತ ತಗೊಂಡು ಬಾಂಬೆ ಬಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ಕಳಿಸ್ಬೇಕಂತ 9:45 ಸಮೀಪ ಆಗ್ತೇನೆ ಅಂತ ಯಶವಂತಪುರ ಮೆಜೆಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ದೂರ ಆಗ್ತಲ್ಲ ಅದೇ
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yes. So I was telling why complications happen is because it is just for a moment you lose the attention or you lose the concentration for a few seconds and then the things have happened already. And one more reason is you feel some of the steps you are very confident in doing. Somebody is doing a tunnel in one go, Rexis in with the forceps in one go, like that. Some of the steps we are overconfident, and during that period I have seen complications to happen. And are they preventable? Yes, they are definitely preventable. And you have to identify them at the earliest. The earliest in the sense you will notice that something is wrong. The things are not happening as per your plan for that particular case. And that is the thing where you can anticipate some complication to happen. And the first and foremost thing what we have to do is accept it. There is something wrong. Don't be in a denial mode, and try to go as per the fixed protocol for that particular complication. Suppose there is a Descemet's detachment at a one focal point, and you try to avoid that side port, go from the other side, or go from other end and do the things. And if there is a rent, something like that, nucleus is tilting, and take all the precautions to lift it up and take it out, then do vitrectomy, stay with the tricort, all those things. Primary things, fixed protocol. You should not have anything new which you have not done previously. You should do at this point in time. And if in the interest of the patient, you should never be hesitant to close it and refer it to the person who is better than you. That is how we can manage the complications. And when all essential materials, when you are starting the surgery, any day, all the days, you should have all the essential materials in one box. Most importantly, the autoclaved, recently autoclaved vitrectomy probes, or the drugs which are essential for dilating, anesthesia or tricor, and sharp blade. Sometimes you need a blade and the blunt blade is there, the tunnel is not happening. Immediately you need it. So all those things should be kept in a one plastic box. I made a big plastic box. Every day I take it inside. I personally see that everything is there in that, all essential things. Like that, you have to plan, and they should be ready within no time. And easy to say, don't get panic when there is a complication, but every time there is a complication, I always used to become a little bit panic. But your this anxiety should improve your performance, and all those things should be kept ready, and people should, the assistant should realize that there is some problem, and they should arrange all those things. This is how we can manage the complications. In nutshell, I have put it like this. With this, we'll start the discussion. Thank you.
Yeah. Complications as such is a very weird topic as such. Nobody wants complications, but we can't escape from it. And complications are part and parcel of any surgery for that matter. It cannot be totally prevented, but few of them can be anticipated and appropriately managed. It occurs just like an accident when you're not planned some event and it happens, you are taken aback. So accidents do happen, and we need to play safe with precautions aimed at reducing further damage. So causes of complications could be anything. The most common could be an hydrogenic damage, which is the most common thing. We do things which we are not supposed to do, and we end up in complications. And this, the most important thing is early identification of the complication, and then rectification by appropriate gadgets or appropriate steps, so that the complications is well managed. There could be a pre-existing conditions like a small pupil, hard cataract, or intermittent cataract, shallow AC, pseudo exfoliation, floppy iris, or a subluxury cataract, wherein you know that there is going to be a problem in future, so you plan everything in handy. Like you keep iris hooks ready, you keep dilating dilating drops ready, everything is ready so that you are prepared for a complication in future. But if you are not getting, if you are having a complication without any pre-planned this thing, then you need to take appropriate steps. That's my take on complications.
I think Dr. Sheetal has to talk. I think you need to unmute. I think Dr. Sheetal, you need to unmute. We are not hearing you.
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Am I audible now?
Yeah, you are audible. Okay. You can go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, and I'll straight away get into the topic. So just elaborating a little more, I'd like to begin by saying failing to plan is planning to fail. So I'd stress plan, plan, and plan. So many of us have done tens or maybe hundreds of surgeries, but still things can go wrong. Okay, because no two patients are alike, no two surgeries are alike, no two cataracts are alike. Sometimes we can get lucky, we might miss something and still things go all right, but we cannot push our luck too far. So pre-operatively, I would say many a times, we forget to take history of drug and systemic conditions. That's pretty common. Also, proper case selection when it comes to postgraduates, because they are less experienced, so you have to make sure that they don't select eyes wherein the sockets are very deep or the brow is very prominent. So such cases they can avoid. Also, plan the incision well. Decide whether you want it to be a superior or a temporal or a superior temporal incision, keeping in mind the astigmatism also. Then before surgeries, definitely I'd suggest to the PGs, read about your steps, go through the planned steps, discuss what steps you are going to get. So that really helps to avoid a lot of complication. Stick to the basics, and small things always make a big difference in surgery. For example, putting your drape properly can make a very big difference in your surgery. Otherwise, you keep struggling at so many steps. Getting your superior rectus right, because if you haven't, the eyeball is turned, in a weird position, or there's bunching up of conjunctiva and you'll struggle to make your incision. Always see that your hands are well supported, and also your incision site is visible to you very easily. You don't have to struggle to access it. Also see that you can use the second instrument to stabilize the globe. And another thing, for a little more experienced surgeons, we have this thing called VIP syndrome, right? And sometimes we try to skip certain steps because we want to make it very fast and convenient for them. Or many a times we do that special thing for them, which we normally don't do for all our patients. And usually it's that special thing that tends to go wrong. So either you treat all your patients normally, or you treat everyone like they are VIP, so you don't get hassle. And of course, it's a common thing that we experience at time. You had a fight at home, or you're disturbed about something, some road rage on the way. All these things also tend to affect surgeries. So try to have a relaxed mind, which will give you a good outcome. So just with this, again, I'd end by saying, failing to plan is planning to fail. Plan, plan, plan each step, and every small step matters. So yeah, that's my take on this. Thank you. Yeah, I'm done. I think I've taken 2 minutes.
Dr. Shetty.
Dr. Shetty.
Unmute, sir. Unmute, sir.
All right. Good evening. I'm okay now.
Yes, yes, you're done.
Okay, I was told to be, more philosophical. No, the finer details, anyway, our colleagues have already said. So when I was undergraduate, there was a talk by Swami Chinmayananda on proficiency and efficiency. So a technician is an efficient fellow. He knows how to repair a bike, but only the engineer knows how to make the bike. So as an ophthalmologist, we should be the engineer of this ophthalmology rather than a technician of the, bike repairer. So you must have heard there are good assistants who can even do cataracts. And I was even told that some of the surgeons have been using their help. They are efficient, they know what to do, but they are not proficient. So we have to raise our level to a proficient level. That means when you are doing a procedure, you should know what, why, and how. So what is our goal and why we are doing it and how we are going to do it. So unless we raise our level to that, there are more chances of we facing the complications and failure to overcome that. The second point is the built-in human inability. If we take in cricket, a bowler cannot bowl all the 6 balls of the over exactly the same. There is an amount of inability. You take an archer, he cannot hit the bullseye every time in spite of days and years of training. Similarly, we also have an amount of inability. However much we try, probably all the 100 capsular exercises we do may not be exactly the same, or the sclerocorneal tunnel we make may not be exactly the same. So there is an inherent amount of inability which has built into our system. The human body is made like that. So within the limits, that's why we always, place a 5 to 5.5 millimeter of rexis. We don't commit exactly 5.00. So that is the margin we have to give to ourselves. So that is the second point. There is a built-in human inability. Third is an experience. See, this motivational speaker, the Shiv Khera used to often say, practice makes man perfect. But he immediately puts it, if the practice, what you are doing is not the correct one, you become perfect in that incorrect activity. So here comes the good teacher who taught you what you have learned. Like Ravindra was talking about the Rajendra Prasad Center. The foundation was laid so strong. So that on that, if they build their practice of ophthalmology, they definitely will be better and superior than the others. So one has to be very lucky to get a good teacher who will put your foundation straight. So with the experience again, as you go on doing surgeries, you will start seeing more, you will start feeling more. In a sense, the things that you have been seeing, you'll see more and more, like simple things. When you're doing the Rex, moment you touch the entry capsule, there is some zonal weakness, you start seeing the wrinkles. Or if there is the way you are trying to tear, the way it is going, this one is going to run away. These things come with experience. So this is your, the treasure that you build with over the years. And also, like Sheetal was mentioning about the variables. So you will also learn with experience to overcome these variables. Although we use one word to call this cataract, but every cataract is different from the previous one. So this experience gives you, kind of a database of the knowledge as, okay, this one I have done before, so you know what to expect. Kind of, that the experience will help you to bring the level of the number of complications that you may face during these cataract surgery. So experience you build on, meaning, as I said, that train properly and increase your experience. If you go on doing 100 or 1,000 surgeries in the wrong way, you will only become perfect in doing the surgery in the wrong way. Zen masters often say, stay in the present. So this is one thing, like Ravi was telling about the sudden lack of concentration. So it is not very easy to stay focused for a short or a long time. So how many of us, when we are operating a case which lasts only 5 or 6 minutes, we are 100% in it. Many a times the mind starts wavering, thinking of something else, because you have done it maybe 100 times or 1,000 times. So you think it to go that certain way, and your mind starts going elsewhere. So it's extremely important to stay focused or be in the present, so that let it be the first case or the 50th case. So my friend, late Dr. Hippergi, I always, used to stand beside me when I operate. So when I'm doing the last case, it is maybe 50th or 60th case, I tell him, Hippergi, for me, this is the 60th one, but this is the only eye for this man. So I had to be as focused as for the first case. So this is my take on, few of my points on how to reduce complication or why complications happen. Thank you.
I think, should I go now?
Yes, sir. You can present. Yes, sir. You can present your talk. Understanding the unforced errors.
Okay, I think the reason why we have joined here for this meeting is the one simple reason: in the quest for excellence. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You're audible.
So, see, complications are inevitable. We all know that they're inevitable part of our surgical career and surgical life. We accept that. Having said that, we would want to tread in a path where the incidence of these complications is extremely low, because that is what we are all working for. We want to excel in our profession, and the quest for excellence is lifelong. It's never a small, only in the postgraduate level, or it is going to be until we stop doing surgeries. So this quest for excellence is there, and that's the reason why we're sitting here and discussing this. And all the points were valid, both philosophical and technical. Both have been covered very well, and both, I think, are quintessential for understanding why these errors happen. So when we talk of errors, I would like to classify these errors into two types. One would be forced error. Like, the situation is so complex that there is no mistake on your part, but still things go wrong. On the other hand, there's something called an unforced error, like a tennis player who keeps hitting the ball at the net. He's not forced to do that, but he keeps doing that, or hits a ball outside of the court. So I'll just go through my diary of complications which I have accumulated over the last 15 years, and then try to classify these errors. It's like, revisiting my complications and what was I thinking that time, what went wrong. So I have this collection of cases where I'll try to analyze each of them and try to give you an insight, like why did this happen for me? So this is the first case wherein, it's an intumescent cataract. I'm very well prepared. I just touch it and it just goes off. Okay. So this, I would like to tell that, okay, this was not in my hands. It's a forced error. There's nothing I could have done for this case. So these are situations where really we feel helpless. Another one similar case, you planned it extremely well. It's an intumescent cataract. I've given 2 small sports to do that using a microforceps, but still I wait there and helplessly watch there, and I could do nothing about it. Just wait and see that it's just going out here. So coming to the next set of errors, unforced errors, and let's try to analyze why these happen. I'd like to again try to in my whatever experience I try to analyze and find out, I'd like to classify them into these groups here. Unforced errors, I want to classify them into two groups, skill-based and non-skill-based. Skill-based is something we are ignorant about the existence of technique, or we don't have that necessary skill. And non-skill based is you're skillful, everything is fine, but the other factors, that's poor decision making, situational awareness, and loss of concentration, are the reason why these errors would have happened here. So let me go back and share my first case with you here. And this is a case which it has happened about say 10 years back for me. This is an intermittent cataract. I have begun doing a big rhexis. And now I realize that it's about to go radial. The chamber is shallowing. I'm injecting viscoelastic. The logic is if you want to inject viscoelastic, you inject so that the chamber doesn't shallow. And I do that religiously. And what happens? It just goes out. Okay. So it just goes off. The problem was it was a technical error, lack of knowledge on my part. It was the wrong way to inject OVD. I'm injecting the OVD directly into the mouth of the open capsular bag, and it's a tense bag. I'm increasing the pressure in the intercapsular bag, and it's going to do this. Another case, a few years later, well, it took me another 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 years to learn the right way to inject an OVD if you have to in an intermittent cataract. Be away from this opening, inject it into the peripheral part of it. So this was something like, it was lack of knowledge. It was not of a lack of skill, it was lack of knowledge. I didn't know the right technique to do it. In this era, you don't have to spend 15 years to learn this small trick. Information is available at every nook and corner. It is the first year resident should be knowledgeable about all these things. You don't have to be as for us to learn it on our own. It took so many years for us to learn. So ignorant about the lack of a better technique was the reason why it caused the complications. So there's no excuse in the modern era to not to know the things here, because information is available everywhere. We have to keep our eyes and ears open. It's not even like, you have to wait for 1 year for an annual conference to go and learn things. You just at a click of a button, you have got the information available. So this generation is extremely blessed because they have the knowledge at the fingertips. The problem is the future depends on those who know what to do with this knowledge. It's not about just having the knowledge, what you can do with this knowledge. Now moving on to the next scenario. This was a routine case, extremely routine, posted for topical surgery, and then this just happens. The patient just moves suddenly, out of nowhere, just moves suddenly. So what we call as routine has become a complicated situation just because of one simple reason, that poor decision making. This patient was hearing impaired, he was not understanding. And when you say a large volume surgery, this is what will happen, it could be paid or it could be unpaid. That there's no excuse for this. There's a lack of situational awareness for this, because the assistant might not be naming, then the surgeon is not known that this patient is probably not right for doing a topical surgery. So this is not skill-based. It is purely a lack of an awareness of the situation on the part of the team. So these are things which are, I guess, they're highly avoidable. There's no reason we should have something like this. Now, moving on to the next case here. This is a perfectly done case. I have done the cataract surgery. The nucleus is removed. I just have to remove a little bit of cortex. There's hardly anything. And I thought the case is done and over, and I'm trying to aspirate the cortex here. And this part comes in here. And here, as I'm going here, there's a small nick in the anterior capsule because of the faulty aspiration cannula. Cannula was slightly rough, I guess, and it was a fresh disposable cannula, and I have had this tear. Now, at this point of time, this happened to me about 5 years, 6 years back, and I distinctly remember the turn of events and what I was thinking. And I was very irritated at this point that, how could anybody give me an cannula, which is not right here? Because having done a perfect surgery and for no fault, you're having a situation where rhexis has gone radial. My mind is still pondering about this. I'm probably angry with my staff and talking to them and telling them, trying to implant the lens. And you know what? Something else happens here. Okay? Something else does happen. See, I'm trying to put the lens into the bag. it has gone radial. There's not an issue at all. But still, what happens? The distal haptic goes and perforates the posterior capsule. Now, this is extremely unusual. You never anticipate anything like this. The chamber has been formed well, but still has happened. When I go back and rewind and then see, you have now created a fresh problem in spite of having the other problem, which was also avoidable. Now, what went wrong here? Go back and rewind and see, that when you are loading, the tip of this haptic is broken. The tip is slightly broken here, but that is not the only reason why it has happened. The posterior capsule, even if it is broken, it shouldn't perforate the PC. What has happened is the posterior capsule is not in an inflated position because whatever OVD I have utilized, I put inside, has gone through this opening into the burger space and then made the posterior capsule slightly taut and convex. That's the reason why, the slightest touch of it went in and perforated the capsule. So again, this case teaches that there are two different sets of complications. One, because of something which was not in your hand, you have a faulty instrument which caused that. But this was definitely avoidable. Simple reason was, it was again a lack of situational awareness, because I was still bothered about and worried about why that I was so irritated about the Trexis having gone radial. I forgot to notice that the capsule was not very well inflated, posterior capsule. And I failed to notice that the tip also was slightly shorter. And on a different day, probably I could have picked up. So the lesson here would be, as Dr. Shetty told us, that, learning to be in the present. I think it's the greatest virtue as surgeons, which we need to perfect and master here. When a complication happens, invariably it can build up a chain reaction. You can end up having a still worse situation than what it was. This is how this case is reflecting on this thing. Always never believe that until the case is totally over. Never consider that the case is completed. Until you finish in the page, they remove the speculum and the patient gets up. Until then, the events can still happen. So this is one of the important messages which I'd like to give it to you. And coming to the most common and complication which we have, PC tear. And I think most of the situations, we can really tell that, posterior capsule tear can be avoided. In the current scenario, I don't think we can have posterior capsule tear, because our understanding of the dynamics, fluid dynamics in the antechamber is so good now. The posterior capsule tear is something which is avoidable in most scenarios. I'm trying to irrigate the posterior capsule, the OVD here, and just because the posterior capsule was taut, we had a PC tear. Again, a taut posterior capsule, I'm just trying to irrigate and remove some lens fibers there, and you have a beautiful posterior rhexis, unintended one. So I would say that, most of the complications are avoidable. Of course, skill-based, I told you that, nowadays, if you are knowledgeable about what skin to achieve, it's just a matter of few months and few years to achieve that skill. So knowledge is available easily at your fingertips. And with that knowledge, you can hone your skills. But the more important and the more difficult aspects would be learning to master this decision-making. You don't have to create your own complications to learn decision making. You can learn from other people's mistakes. The smartest one are always the one who learn from other people's mistakes, and develop this situational awareness. That is only possible if you master the art of learning to be in the present. And as I said, poor concentration obviously is the most common reason why most complications happen. But you know what? All of these can be learned and mastered. So before that, I'd just like to conclude by sharing you one last case here. Now, this is an 85-year-old man. The case is finished now. So I'm just trying to hydrate the side port incisions here. And then just trying to hydrate the main port, and you can suddenly see a fluid wave going around here. Actually, you just see, and there is another wave which is seen. So this was, obviously you can know that, when you see this deadly fluid wave, it is nothing but, a Descemet's membrane detachment. It has happened at the fag end of a beautifully done surgery. And I'm ended up having this massive detachment. And initially, you are going to again reposit by trying to fill in air here. You can see the folded